What is going on, YouTube? This is The Last Musketeer, and welcome to part 4 of the free-to-play progression series. So the biggest thing that is happening in this video, and I had to start it out with it, is E2ing Swire. Now this has been a long time coming, and for anyone that knows this channel, you'll know that Swire is my favorite operator, and it's good to finally give her the love that she deserves. So this is going to be a huge upgrade for me personally, because I use her quite often when I can. It's just when she's at E1, she doesn't pose enough of a threat to be used that often. But now that she's E2, you can bet that I'm going to be using her quite often in my lineup, if not every time, if I can manage it. Because aside from her being my favorite, I think instructors don't get enough love overall, because they have their niche uses but are generally not used in most of the content clearing due to something being a little better in a situation. But with that news, I also unlocked the guide talking about the module system, so now I can finally start to work on some of the modules, which is a bit scary in itself. I know this is going to be a hard challenge, but also if you know me, you know I love a challenge. I love to strategize, so it's going to be an actually interesting next little bit. So hopefully I can get some stuff out on that, and we'll see where we can go from there. But I will say that I also took her to Mastery Rank 2 on her second skill. I will probably M6 this hero just because, but while it's probably not that necessary, Swire's going to get all that love. And I'm going to make sure to max out that operator. And, you know, cross my fingers and hope that a Swire altar will be coming in the future. But for now, I can only dream. But as you can see from the module system, they have to have a trust level of 100. They have to be E2 level 50. I don't know if it changes depending on the rarity of the actual operator. But it also takes a little bit of LMD, not too bad. 40k is not that bad. It's the mission part that is curious. So clear 5 operations with Swire. Swire cannot be a support unit. Only guard operators are allowed for the reigning unit. So 5 operations with only guards, which doesn't seem like a hard thing. Honestly, shouldn't be a problem with that one. Clear main theme S2 3 with a 3-star rating using a squad of at most 2 units. A non-support Swire must be deployed during the operation. Only melee operators are allowed for the remaining units. So that's going to be fun to see, and luckily we'll get a chance to look at that. But also, in the way of upgrades, we E2'd Bagpipe. Now this one is also huge, mainly for the fact that I'm going to start DP printing like crazy on stages. And she ties into the fact that I'm going into 7-9 on the chapter. So if anybody remembers, that is a big Vanguard check, and this is going to make it a ton easier, because when I did it in the last video, I was having a little bit of a hard time getting enough DP in time because I didn't level up enough 2 blockers. So you'll see a lot more of that, see a lot more things going on there, and I am dragging the screens out a little bit. I do apologize because there's a lot that I need to say, otherwise I'd cut it down a bit more. But I also now have access to the skill 3, which is a lot of damage. It's going to be really nice, adding an extra block. And it's going to help me clear some of the more annoying mobs when I need it, and also can help with a little bit of boss damage. So it's always exciting to see us doing some really good stuff in this next week, and hopefully, you know, that's going to play into a big part of it. But as you can see here, this is where I actually M2'd the secondary skill. I do not have my training rune up to level 3, so I can't go higher than that. Another big upgrade we made is doing E1 Amiya, because if you've seen my previous vids, I haven't worked up a caster in a long time. It's been a very, very long time coming, and Amiya is one of those that I need to get up. It's been urged from the Discord and from people in the comments to take her up, so I 100% wanted to do that. And also, I love the second ability. It is a very, very long time to be able to use it, but it does do some really good damage, especially if there's one single target in front of her locked down. She's going to absolutely melt that unit. And she does go stunned for 10 seconds after the duration of it is over, but generally it's not going to make that big of a deal when it comes to that point. If you place her in a little bit of a weird position, potentially it could be a bad thing. But either way, we're starting out campaign chapter 7, stage 9. And as you can see here, I'm dropping Myrtle with Bagpipe E2 in the lineup, making it almost an instant DP. Cantabile is also another huge upgrade that came with E2ing Bagpipe, because I can throw her down. Instead of using the just fast deploy passive first skill, I can use the second one and have her lane hold so much easier off the rip. It's going to give her so much more viability going forward. And from here, I have Thorns facing the mid lane, right above Cantabile. I have Swire above Myrtle, because Swire can handle that with the 2-block going on up there. I have Amiya taking out the... and I do forget the name of them, but I'm just going to call them the Guerrilla Tactic guys, whatever you want to call them, Guerrilla Leaders. I have them taken out up top. Mudrock I placed up at the top as well to deal with that lane. So now I have no more of them to worry about except when they walk through mid lane, which is not really a problem because now that Thorns is at his S2 full unlimited duration and Click is facing the right side as well, anytime it gets out of Thorns' range, it'll nearly be gone, and then Click will finish it off before it causes too much mayhem. But with 7-9 done, it is time to move on to some of the latter stages. Now, I was excited to see what was coming up because of the way some of these were structured. It was a bit scary to look at. Once again, we put Myrtle up top, out of the way, Cantabile on the bottom lane, Swire there to help with the blocking because even though Cantabile does really good damage, it's not quite enough with her at E145 to take out the dogs in time, even with the speed increase. So we also drop Beagle there because the bottom lane honestly doesn't have too much of a problem early on. Yeah, you get 4 of these guys. One of them shows up at a time, basically. They kind of stagger in, making it a little bit easier to clear. The defense from Beagle is huge, so she really doesn't take much of any damage from this. So as long as the rest of them can stay alive and deal damage, they're good. Swire also doing a lot of work back there. Usually when they stagger in a couple at a time, she can still hit the ones up front from that range, which is really nuts. Now top lane, I had to put Thorns and Mudrock up there because that one is the one that was the biggest problem. Perfumer's also up there to help with the healing a little bit, and Click, and then also throw Cantabile in the spot that Myrtle was for a little extra damage, and that one is now out of the way. So initially it was a little hard. I had to throw it into practice once or twice just to get the right lineup on the top lane, because bottom, I staggered them a little bit more on the bottom, put Mudrock down there. I had to focus exactly where I wanted to put everything. Now this one actually wasn't that bad. I think this one was pretty straightforward. Cantabile in the bottom lane to get some extra DP early and kind of slow down that wave. And then Thorns is going to help carry out that lane while Mudrock is also there for a little bit of help. I don't know if Mudrock is in the best position there. It's a decent one, but they do end up hitting the other ones first. Now I do know both my healers are sitting next to the pylon taking damage, but that's not really an issue because between the two of them they heal quite a lot, and it's just enough to keep everybody alive. Now this new enemy that I'm dealing with here that does the caster damage, the arch damage over time, a bit rough. I nearly lost a couple of champs. I lost one run nearly based off that when I was doing it in the practice runs. But honestly, even though they get hit by the pylon and do that extra damage, between these two healers, that's quite a lot of sustain. Now Bagpipe is in bottom lane for a little bit just to do the extra damage for the ones that are coming through. Once she has E2 and that skill 2 all the way leveled up, it's pretty good damage. So I use that there. This one I did love. Now I know a lot of people are probably not too keen on doing a lot of the box strats, but I do like these because there's a lot of options that you can give yourself when it comes to this. So you're basically, I'm funneling them all into this one spot so they take the damage over time. Yeah, they get extra attack speed and damage, but that doesn't matter because if you kite them long enough, none of them are really going to be able to hit you. Now, I do know there's other options that I could have used for this. My Discord was telling me after I beat it that there is a way to do it where you don't have to deploy basically any operators. You can do it with just kiting everything around, which is always an option. I like to look for stuff like that, and maybe I'll figure that out in a little bit. Maybe I'll do it in a later video just to see what I can do, what I can manage, because I don't think there's too much to it. This one's kind of straightforward, but realistically, I just wanted to clear it and get it done. So what I did was blocked everything off to where they're all going into the same spot, funneling into one position. Mudrock with her shield is doing enough healing to take care of all of that. Thorns doing a lot of damage. Swire actually helping out quite a lot when anything gets past Mudrock. Also have Bagpipe up top, and as you can see, she keeps getting low, but she refuses to go down, which is absolutely insane. Bagpipe is nuts, to say the least. I can't wait till I can actually put a little bit of a prestige into her. It's going to be nice to get those extra benefits to Bagpipe to make her that much stronger. So 713 was actually very interesting. So the Gorilla Shield Guards are starting to show up now. These guys are always a pain. The only time I've actually experienced them is in IS2, so I am somewhat familiar with them. They do take priority when it comes to attacks. So what I did was throw Amiya as soon as I can, top lane facing that one, and then click on the bottom lane facing that one to try to do damage on them and get as much out as I possibly can. Now the problem is the Gorilla guys are going to walk through the stairs and then come to where Bagpipe is currently sitting. The main thing that made me run it 2 or 3 different times in practice was actually the Gorilla leaders coming in and not actually being blocked because you can't place them on the other spaces, so I have to make sure that I have enough damage in those spots when they're walking through to be able to finish them off in time. Now Cruz bottom lane switching for Click was actually a good option for me. I didn't realize how good it would actually be because I put blue poison bottom to help Bagpipe clear them off in time, but as you can see, Cruz nearly finishes them off. And in that case, she actually did, but she nearly finished them off every time as they're walking through, so it was a really easy cleanup for Bagpipe. 714 was another one that it was surprisingly easy. I thought it was probably going to be a little bit harder with the way the layout was. I figured with the blocking up top, there was going to be something weird coming from there. And I was right. Luckily, I placed Bagpipe up there. Now, I would have preferred for her to tank some of the damage because everybody's grouped up here, so when the mortars walk out up top, we're going to take a lot of area damage, and that for Perfumer is going to be a little easier to heal, but still not the greatest thing. If the mortars do not have a ghillie leader, though, realistically they don't do that much damage, so I don't have to worry about them too much. But Bagpipe is my savior for the top lane, building up those stacks so that when the ghillie leaders come through or the mortar strikers come through, she can try to finish them off as fast as possible, make it a little bit easier for the bottom lane to deal with. Now once again, I have Swire right behind Mudrock to do a little bit of extra damage. Click there for the very heavy tanks. Thorns on the bottom lane, blocking that, so in case anything got by, as you see here, he could end up dealing with that, and also dealing with the 2 lanes in front. Thorns is such an insane character. I'm so happy that I got him. Even though it was off banner, I couldn't have asked for a better operator. So 715 was a bit different. You start to get hit with a lot of different options as far as enemies. I try to use Cantabile for the top lane to help take out that one. Blue Poison I dropped for a little extra damage, try to finish them off in time. I didn't worry too much about her going down because if I get the trade-off, at least that makes it worth it. But since the dogs run out so fast, Cantabile cannot quite take out the ghillie leader before the guys run through and block some of the damage. As you can see there, she also doesn't get the finish there. It finishes with 1 HP, so I'll have to wait for either it to walk out or for Cantabile to come up and finish it off again, which I should have probably planned her out there, but it might have been a better option for me to just go ahead and throw it on the top lane. But as you can see with both of them out, so this one, when the bottom lane is getting pushed in so hard like this, I ended up putting Bagpipe in front of Saria, facing down, to do a little bit extra damage to the bottom lane, because while Mudrock can handle it pretty well and Thorns is helping as much as he can, there were just so many enemies coming out. Luckily, I was able to finish off one in time with the Mudrock spin to save one of them from leaking, because it catches on the backside of Swire just in time. And Swire is fairly tanky in her own right, so she can handle a little bit of the abuse, but you don't want to risk anything going wrong. And so luckily, I was able to spin to win on that situation, and also hit level 54 and E1'd Gravel. Now, like I said before, this is all thanks to the event with all of the different resources I'm getting from there, and running also some IS2 for the 50k drops that come every few levels. It has made a huge improvement in this last week. So, E2'ing Swire, E2'ing Bagpipe, E1'ing Amiya, nearly getting her to E2, and then E1'ing Gravel. It's been a long time coming. But the reason I did the E1 Gravel here was actually because I was trying to decide whether I use Shaw or Gravel for 716, because this one is a very, very rough map. It took me a few tries to figure out, but I put Cantabile top lane, also put Thorns in front of the blue gate, facing up to help take out some of the units coming out from up there. This is going to build his special 2 up, or his skill 2 up very fast, make it to where he get the unlimited duration pretty quickly. As you can see, I got Cantabile to her second iteration of the skill 2, which means I'm getting a lot of DP out of her. I also throw Gravel down to bait the mortar a little bit because I'm going to have to start swapping out units pretty quickly. I need to make sure Swire does not go down. Shining is tanky enough to take some of the damage for a little bit, and then once Mudrock goes down, then I no longer have a problem dealing with that. But as you can see, I cannot attack the ghillie suit guys at the moment, so they are full buffing the other team while 2 mortars are out at the same time, which is where the nightmare came in. So what I ended up doing was E1 and Gravel, getting that HP shield and just tanking a few of the blast, just long enough for the rest of my team to deal with them, or they will move down the stairs and then Thorns will be able to take them out as they're going through there, which made this run 400 times easier. I have to say it was much scarier at first, but after you find a way of dealing with the mortars, you're actually not in that big of a bad situation. So, but I will say one of the reasons I was considering Shaw is the range tile in front of Mudrock. You can actually put Shaw there with skill 2 and blast the ghillie suits as they're walking by straight into Mudrock. Mudrock will take care of them, and then you have a lot easier of a fight because you're not going to have anybody buffed for a good majority of it. Yeah, they're going to walk through every little bit, but if you can handle that as quickly as possible and also use bait like Gravel or somebody else to tank some of the damage while they do have the buff, then you'll be just fine. But we're getting pretty close to the end of the video. This is the last one I'm actually going to run for this one, because between Dussel's holiday event running, putting a lot of time and energy into that, I didn't get a crazy amount of campaign clear, but I also didn't want to get all the way to the boss by this week because, you know, I'm trying to work on story videos. I'm trying to get everything going and hopefully, you know, do like a live reaction to the actual boss and the story for the end of this chapter. So if I can get to that, that would be even better, and we'll kind of go from there and figure out what we want to do. And of course I'll take the VOD itself, leave it up there for the raw reaction, and then I'll go back and cut in and edit all of that out so people could see it, and we could talk about it in another video. But with all that being said, we are at level 54 overall. We're on chapter 7, we're on S2. So I do have a lot of things that I need to go back and do. I noticed there is actually 1 or 2 stages in the lower chapters that I haven't actually 3-starred, which is kind of funny. Some of them that I've skipped as I'm scrolling through there that I need to go back and do. And also the challenge mode. So I've got a ton of OP to farm in the next little bit, because obviously Texas Altar coming next month is going to be a huge upgrade for the account. So that's what I'm looking forward to. But as Dassault's holiday goes, I'm on DHS1. It's going to take me a little bit of time to figure these out because with all the increased stats and stuff, I'm going to have to really plan and look forward to what I'm actually going to do as far as the lineup. With the big upgrades to Bagpipe, Cantabile has now unlocked her full potential. Now I just need to get her to E2 and really get her shining because she just absolutely insane. I also need to work up some of the 2 blockers, Texas being one of them. Texas is going to be huge going forward, so gonna give her some love in the future. Thorns, of course, being there. Swire, level 46. I was gonna try to take her to 50 if I could there, but you know, I'm happy to settle with that there. Lapland is still waiting on an E2, and I talked about that like a few weeks ago and just never ended up doing it because of all the other options that I had. Sorry is another E2 that I need to get as soon as possible. It's going to be an expensive one, so that one's probably going to wait a little bit. Gavial Altar also waiting a little bit. Amiya is an E2 that I'm going pretty soon, I think. Probably my actual next upgrade. And so she's going to be a little expensive, but not too bad. Perfumer is one that I need for the medics, and then Jay, of course, going to E2 will be huge for him because I need him tanking some of the bosses, especially in IS2. He does a good job, but he doesn't quite have the stats to survive some of the harder things currently. But I'm going to go ahead and end the video here, guys. I really hope you enjoyed, and hopefully we can make some good progress in the next one. But anyway, I hope to see you there. Peace.